Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. There are many ways to support the show. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also check out the and sign up for the Patreon page and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. And you can check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and other items with designs made by friends of the show. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Also, please follow other friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, if I could talk, who has her own channel and is the co-host of the show on Saturdays when she is able. Even though it has been a while, she will always be the co-host as long as she wants to have that position or that title. Also, please follow Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, online for free 24/7. And I think that takes care of everything. So um, if I sound different or talk differently or seem like I take pauses here and there, I recently had some teeth removed. So talking is still weird in this new state that my mouth is in now. So I apologize for any anything that doesn't sound right. I am still adjusting and it's doing as well as I can. So, but thank you all for being here. I see you all there in the chat. Thank you for being here as well. And yeah, so let me get to these true stories here, and we'll go from there. And let's see here. Get to the file. Been a It's been a interesting time anyway. So this first one says, this happened 3 nights ago. I'm writing this because I need to know if anyone else has experienced something like this. I live alone in a small studio apartment on the 4th floor. No roommates, no pets, no family nearby. The building is old but quiet. My bedroom faces the hallway, and there's nothing between it and the front entrance except empty space. Around 3:17 a.m., I woke up to knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on my bedroom door. Not the front door, my bedroom door, from inside my apartment. I froze. My first thought was maybe I'd left the front door unlocked and someone got in. But the knocking was too patient, too measured. Knock, pause, knock, pause, knock. I didn't move. I barely breathed. I waited for footsteps, for any sound of movement. Nothing. Just silence pressing against my eardrums. Then it happened again. 3 knocks. Same rhythm. Same deliberate spacing. This time I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The knocks were coming from low on the door, maybe 2 feet off the floor, like someone kneeling, or something smaller than a person. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned on my phone flashlight and opened the door fast, ready to confront whoever it was. The hallway was empty. My front door was locked, chain still on. Every window was closed. I checked the entire apartment, closets, bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. Nobody. But when I came back to my bedroom, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. On the carpet outside of my bedroom door, there were two small handprints, child-sized, dusty, like they'd been pressed there by hands, covered in something dry and gray. I don't have kids. I don't know any kids. No one has been in this apartment except me. The handprints were facing my door, like something had been kneeling there, reaching up to knock. I scrubbed them away immediately, but I can still see exactly where they were. And last night, around 3 a.m., I heard it again. 3 knocks. Same rhythm, same height. I didn't open the door this time. And that's where that one ends. That one is fascinating because so often when there's any kind of sounds, there's there's hardly any evidence of anyone being there other than sounds. Even when there's sometimes sounds of footsteps before or after knocks of any kind, there's not always any visual sign that anyone had been there. I'm also just wondering how would there be? I guess maybe just from if it was dust. Maybe that's what they mean. That just left dusty handprints on the carpet. Because I don't know. Yeah, I'm guessing that must be what it is. Because I mean, I don't see how there could be impressions on the carpet. Um, Unless I'm wrong, but that is creepy in a way because what was there? And for it to be that small, what was it or who was it? I have no answers, of course, but yeah, that's an odd one there. Again, the knocking is a common enough paranormal thing. The handprints on the carpet made of dust or whatever, and then the fact that the knocking was low to the floor. Uh, it all does seem to point towards something or someone that was low to the floor, either crawling or I don't know, or just happened to be that short, which is very. Of course, my mind goes to the little folk or the fae or fairies or however you want to call them, the good folk. Um, that whole phenomenon. Of course, I don't know if that's what that was, but the dust also makes me wonder if it was more like dust from the ground that got left behind. I'm not sure, and maybe I'm reaching too far with this, but all these possibilities really um, went through my mind when I first read that account online. So that's the first time I've heard of these two things together like that, knocking, which is common, and then these prints on the floor, the carpet, like that at the same time. I never really heard of dust prints on a carpet anyway, so that's also fascinating just in that detail itself. But yeah, so moving on to the next one here. This one says, "We've lived here since August, and sometimes things move. My roommate's tarot card box moved on her bed the other day. She saw it from the corner of her eye and heard the noise. Sometimes we hear each other call for the other, but the person is asleep. For example, I heard my roommate calling for me the other night, but it was midnight, and when I asked, she said she was sleeping. She also said she heard me pacing the hallway one night, but I was sleeping at the time. It was around 1 a.m. Is our house haunted? What do we do if it is? I feel crazy asking this. Also, neither of us have ever sleepwalked." So that's a short one. That's where that one ends. I wonder if it's not so much sleepwalking or even a ghost or other spirits or consciousness there. I wonder if they're having out of body experiences and not remembering or realizing it, or if it's some kind of a time anomaly of themselves at other points in time that they're somehow picking up on in that space. Or, of course, the possibility of it being some other consciousness that is able to duplicate voices like a mimic in that way. Um, but then there's a footsteps, so that could be I know it said the roommate heard the writer there, but if it's just footsteps, how would you know? Unless the roommate said it was the writer's specific um, type or pattern of footsteps, because I'm sure everyone has noticed this. If there's someone that you know really well, you kind of get a feel, especially if you hear the footsteps, you get a feel for when someone is moving around in a place, especially if it's the floors make enough noise or whatever, or they're close enough. I'm sure I can't be the only one who has noticed that there are a few people, that I can tell who it is almost just by the sound or the the feeling of them walking by without even seeing them. So uh, just all possibilities there, and hopefully um, everything just calms down, or hopefully it's just themselves, and that way there's no other others to be concerned with there. So this next one says, first of all, has anyone here seen an apparition? Second of all, in the 90s, my family and I saw an apparition in our living room. We were all together. It was daytime. It looked like a white, foggy outline of a person, and it was walking across the room and left after a few minutes. It wasn't scary, and we don't believe it was anything to do with us. But something I can't come to grips with is, why did this random ghost show itself to us? But my Nana, who passed away half a year ago, can't do it when I really want to see her. And that's where that one ends. I wanted to share this one and adjust this one because that is a valid question, and I don't have an answer, but I just wanted to say, for anyone who's maybe had a similar situation where you've experienced something paranormal before, and maybe even had other witnesses with you or whatever, and then you've had someone that you're close to, that you care about, pass away, but you never had an experience with them um, coming to you after they passed. That is not uncommon. I don't know how that is or why that is. If why certain people are able to come back and visit certain people after they passed, and why not others, I'm not sure. But so I don't have an answer for that, except just that this person is not alone in wondering that or in not having that experience. So, um, and I've heard that before. People that look into these subjects have had loved ones that have passed, and they were hoping that there'd be an experience they'd have with that loved one after they'd passed, and it never happened. So again, that's just one of the many things that we don't have all the answers for yet. At least I don't think we do. So um, I think we get clues and bits and pieces of details here and there, and maybe some people have the answers, but they're just because they're sensitive enough to know these things, but they can't describe it well enough, or um, not enough people are ready to accept whatever these other people that have these gifts have to say to everyone. I'm not sure, but either way, there's still a whole lot that is a mystery when it comes to the paranormal, obviously. So moving on to the next one here, and thank you all for being here and listening in. Let me get to the next one here. Okay, this one says, my mother had two paranormal experiences while driving. One of them happened in broad daylight when she was alone in the car. As she approached the village where her own mother lived, she suddenly felt pressure against her back through the seat, like human knees pushing or pressing pushing I lost my spot. Pushing forward from behind her. There we go. It was as if someone was sitting in the back seat and pressing their knees into her. Startled, she instinctively slowed down. By the time she reached the village, she saw a car coming from the opposite direction. It slowed down abruptly and began turning into a driveway. Another car behind it was speeding, and instead of braking, it swerved to overtake. It shot past and cut sharply right in front of my mother's car. She is convinced that if she hadn't slowed down because of those knees pressing into her back, she would have collided head on with that car. The second experience happened late at night after my mother finished work. She walked through the darkness to her parked car. When she sat down in the driver's seat and leaned back, she felt resistance behind her shoulders, like someone's hands were resting there. Instantly, she had the overwhelming sense. I'm telling you, these new holes in my mouth here from the missing teeth or removed teeth are driving me insane. Anyway, when she instantly she had the overwhelming sense that she was being watched. She was terrified to look in the rearview mirror, afraid she might see someone sitting behind her. Frozen with fear, she couldn't move for a moment. Then, gathering her courage, she started the engine and drove away. Only then did she realize she was alone in the car. But the fear stayed with her. And that's where that one ends. Um, I wonder if there's some kind of connection between the car and, I don't know, a previous owner. Uh, the first incident does sound like possibly someone trying to send a warning, but then the second incident, I don't know. There's no outcome that indicates that second incident was the same, unless it was, and whatever happened was long over by the time the mother got there. I guess it's possible as well. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure about that one. What to make of that? If it was someone attached to the car that was also trying to give out warnings here and there, or if it was just someone attached and there was no message. It wasn't meant as a warning, and yet somehow it worked out where the presence caused enough of a delay to where the mother um, was lucky in a way. I do think things happen for reasons, but I also think things sometimes happen um, accidentally, and not all accidents are a bad thing in that way. So it's hard to say with that. Um, I'm wondering how long the mother had that vehicle, or if it was. And it actually doesn't say. So I guess that's a good question that we can't really ask. But I'm wondering now, was it the same vehicle both times or not? Because that's another possible, I don't know, important detail there, important factor as to trying to figure out why these things happen. Not that we can, but um, so yeah, not sure. Moving on to the next one here. This one says, has anyone else ever heard a sound that nobody around you reacted to? This happened twice this month, and it's starting to freak me out. I'll hear something clear as day, like someone calling my name, a knock on the door, or a loud clang from another room. And when I go check, nobody else heard it or heard anything. Not even the people standing right next to me. It's not constant. It's not subtle. It's like a perfectly normal sound in an abnormal place. The weird part? It always happens when I'm thinking deeply about something or zoning out. Has this happened to anyone else? What did you hear? What did you hear? And there, of course, that's a post in a forum. But I wonder if there. It's. It seems like it has something to do with them focusing or not focusing, but being in a slightly different state of mind. And I wonder if that is allowing them to pick up on things happening, maybe on other levels or in other dimensions of reality that no one else picks up on because they're not in that same state. Um, I've had a couple of weird experiences over the years that happened when I kind of zoned out. A couple times, well, one time I heard a local radio station in my head, and I recognized the songs it was playing in the order it was playing them in and everything, and it was so clear. And I've forgotten now what the songs are, but um, it was really odd. It was like I was hearing radio in my head, but it wasn't a physical thing, but it was still in there somehow. Another time I heard what I'm guessing were thoughts of people, just mundane, ordinary thoughts like I have to go to the store and things like that, just for like a second or two, and then it faded. And both those times, I was sitting in my chair, not listening to anything at the time, just kind of zoned out, maybe dozing a little bit, sleeping a little bit, or almost there, and just really relaxed. And then, of course, those sounds, or whatever they were, thoughts or energies, I lost track of them, and I came out of it, and everything stopped. So I'm thinking that's the key. Whatever it is happening, I don't know, but there's something to that. Being having the mind be in a different state, the brain be working in a slightly different way at those times. For that maybe allows for what we think of as anomalous things to happen. And maybe they are anomalous, or maybe they happen more often than people realize. And they just don't think about it, or, of course, because of the stigma against all these weird things, maybe it happens to more people than people would like to admit. So I found that one fascinating because it reminded me of a couple of experiences I've had as well. Moving on to the next one here. This one says, for the past few months, I've experienced a series of unusual events in my house involving objects disappearing, excuse me, and then reappearing in places I had already checked thoroughly. These incidents weren't things I could have overlooked. Some of the objects were large in small spaces, or placed in spots where it was impossible to miss them. The most recent and most extreme incident involved my old phone. My boyfriend and I both saw it on my dad's office desk the day before, and we each tried to unlock it, to which we failed at different times. For this reason, I left the phone face down on the desk, and my boyfriend never went back into the room after me. We were the only ones home. When we left the house, I believed the phone was still there where I left it. But unlike the other objects that reappeared somewhere inside the house, the phone showed up in a completely different location altogether. The next day, my boyfriend found that same phone wedged between the seat and the passenger door in his locked car. My family had come home the previous night, but they never interacted with my boyfriend or got near his car. And he never left his car when he dropped me off a few hours later. The doorbell camera also showed us leaving without anything in our hands, and there was no opportunity for anyone else to access his car. Given all the details, the phone could not have physically ended up there through normal means. If anyone has ever heard of something like this, or has any ideas what might be happening, any insight would be greatly appreciated. And that's where that one ends. Um, so that one is fascinating. Um, I mean, other objects, it's always amazing when you hear about that and it's so common. I wonder if it's easier, or maybe if these kind of vanishing and reappearing events, I wonder how much more often they happen to small electronic devices, and I wonder if it happens because they are electronic devices. If it's something to do with the energy or the power, the battery, whatever, the systems within the device interacting with whatever it is, or possibly whoever it is, that makes objects vanish and reappear, or even just vanish. I wonder if it's easier or more likely for electronics um, to vanish and or reappear like this, because again they have energy in them, and they're made to contain and use energy, electricity, and all those things. Um, this reminds me, and every once in a while this comes up, of one of my favorite accounts I've shared on the show that I found online, of this family who had this weird spot in their kitchen that whenever they walked through it, they always got a feeling like it was just a strange spot. And I believe they even said it felt like they were going to fall as they were walking through it, and they never did. But one day, the father of the family was walking through that spot, and his phone fell. I don't know, out of his pocket or from his hand or whatever, but his phone fell, and he heard it, and everyone heard it hit the floor in this kitchen. But then when they looked down and looked around the kitchen floor for this phone, it was gone. And then sometime later, I think it was like a few years later, one day the writer and the family was there, and they heard the sound of something hitting the floor in that same spot in their kitchen. And they went and looked, and there was the phone, the dad's phone from a few years earlier. And so it appeared as though it went through some kind of a time portal anomaly thing. Who knows what that is? But and I'm just wondering now, because I feel like I've had other accounts on the show of phones or small electronics, but I'm feeling like more like phones. Maybe there's other accounts, I'm just not thinking of them directly right now. But I'm wondering how common it is, especially for devices that people aren't using all the time, to go and then come back like that in different places. The borrowers, yeah, I think I've heard of that, but I haven't really. I don't think I've actually seen that or read that before. I know the title. Uh, I did have an experience with a phone once where I had left it on a table next to my bed, back when I was sleeping in the bedroom, which became my storage room later. And I had set it on the table, and when I woke up in the morning, next morning, late morning, I could not find it. It wasn't on the table. Instead, it was in the pocket of a pair of pants, extra pair of pants I had, um, beneath the bed. And of course, I hadn't put it there, and I couldn't have just fallen off the table and gotten into the pocket of the pants just from falling off the table. Um, so yeah, it's odd. I also had And as I've said before, I had my phone charger go missing once, and I knew right where I had it, and I had set it on this one. I have a lot of chairs in my apartment, and I had it set it on this one chair because I live alone, so I wasn't using all these chairs for anything. So I had it set on this chair, and I went to get it one day, and I could not find it. And of course, I'm legally blind, so I made sure I felt all around the chair, made sure I wasn't just not seeing it, and but no, it wasn't. It was physically not there. And I searched around the apartment, even though I knew I had left it on the chair. And this is I don't know, a year or two after I had moved in here, and I had other experiences. And finally, I just said out loud, uh, if anyone can help me find my phone charger, I'd appreciate it, because if my phone dies, runs out of power, and my family can't reach me, they're going to come over here eventually to find out what's going on. And I stopped looking for it, went off to do other things in the apartment. Never left the apartment. That I remember anyway. But either way, and a few hours later, went to look for it again, and it was right back on that same chair where I had left it, where it had not been when I had looked for it to begin with. So, so yeah, just wondering about that. Is it easier or more common for portable electronics to be to be transferred somehow through space and time, through, I don't know, teleportation, portals, whatever, than other objects? So moving on to the next one here. Let me see. This is a really short one, but this one says, once I stood in front of my mirror for a long time, when suddenly it distorted and I saw a woman in black walk quickly past me. It was a completely enclosed room. There was no way someone was playing a trick on me, especially since I was completely alone that day. To this day, I still wonder if that's really what happened. And again, short one, but um, here we have mirrors coming up as they do, mirrors and reflective surfaces coming up again and again when it comes to people seeing things in the reflection of the mirror that were not there before. And sometimes people see things in the mirror, but not when they look around, away from the mirror, to where they could see whatever it was they saw in the mirror, and there's something there. Other times there's not anything there, and it only appears in the reflection in the mirror. I've never actually seen anything in a mirror. I've just gotten weird vibes from mirrors. Um, at one point, uh, in a room I used to stay in what used to be my dad and my former stepmom's house, um, my former stepmom had a pair of what looked like antique mirrors in really fancy frames and everything, um, just resting against the walls on either side of this long, narrow room. And of course, they weren't at the ends; they were on in the middle of the long walls on the sides. And I didn't know anything about anything paranormal at the time. And but whenever had to go in that room and I had to walk past those two mirrors, I always went past them as quickly as I could, because I always got a weird feeling from being in between those two mirrors. Um, Now, I do know people that have in their bathrooms, they have those mirrors that it's not quite mirrors behind, like across from each other. It's more of like a bathroom mirror that has a mirror on one wall, and then it sort of wraps around to the other wall, so you can kind of look, I don't know, at your front and your side at the same time if you want to. I guess I'm guessing that's how it works. And I've never gotten a weird feeling from those. I don't know if it's because they're more current um, factory-made mirrors, or if it's because they were not directly across from each other. Um, but I haven't gotten that feeling from those mirrors. So, but there's obviously something to mirrors because they do pop up in experiences that I find posts about and share on the show every once in a while. So, again, thank you all for being here. Let me move on to the next one here. This one says, so when I was 9 or 10 years old, I was sitting on a bed with my father. He was on his phone, not paying attention, and my sister was on the computer playing a video game, also not paying attention to me. So I was really bored, and I was just staring at the staircase. There was 10 stairs and then a landing, and then stairs again. So I was looking, and then I suddenly saw a white, see-through person. It was a girl between the age of 20 to 25. She was wearing a long white dress and a white veil. She had long hair and was all white. She just walked from the left side to the right side, and she walked through the walls. I felt no negative energy coming from her. I wasn't even scared of her. I was just shocked at what I had just seen. I would really appreciate if someone told me what that was or what that means because I am not sure to this day. And that's where that one ends. It means they saw an apparition of a woman in white. Now, I'm not recalling if women in white apparitions sometimes have a veil. I'm wondering if they mean, I'm thinking of a veil would imply it's a piece of fabric over their face, but I could be wrong on that. And I'm just trying to think here if I've ever heard of a woman in white, excuse me, um, having that. But also, a lot of times these women in white, they seem to have white skin, like they're all white, except they usually have dark hair. But this one that this person saw was all white. So I wonder if it's all white because it was in just the way it appeared, and it wasn't necessarily because the apparition had white hair. Sometimes you hear about apparitions appearing in all one color, not just the clothes, but their skin or their physical body, the appearance of a physical body, also sharing the same color as whatever it is that's they're wearing or whatever the light is that they appear to be made of. Um, so I'm not sure. Again, there are patterns, but there's always also um, slight variations in things. And so does that mean they are part of those patterns, or are they separate but just seem like they're connected? Uh, I don't know, but maybe time will tell as we collect more and more of these accounts and go from there. I guess that's all we can do. Moving on to the next one here. This one says, I've been looking on here, online on this webpage for a while now, and this has been at the back of my mind for quite a while. A few years ago, I was a delivery driver doing multiple drops. It was around 3 a.m., and I was on my way from Reading to Findlay. Not sure where this is when they said this or where this happened. And I stopped for a bathroom break. I was looking up in the sky when I noticed a purple orb of light go across the sky and disappear. 30 to 45 seconds later, I saw another one follow and do exactly the same thing. Now, I don't think these were aircraft, as I've seen enough planes in the sky. I live near an airport to recognize anti-collision lights, and they aren't purple. Also, it was the middle of the night, so there wouldn't have been that many planes flying over that region at that time. But I've often wondered what they could have been, and that's where that one ends. If the person saw orbs of light, that sounds like orbs of light, as in circles or spheres of light without any craft, or without being attached to any craft, at least that was visible to them. And I wonder too, were those two separate lights, or were they connected to something that was just invisible to the person there? It's hard to know without, let's say, not details, but maybe an expanded or larger experience with other things happening. But I mean, orbs of light are extremely common, both in the sky, but also near the ground, in forests and trees, in buildings, houses, and other types of buildings as well, and out in space. So I don't think there's just one explanation for what all these lights are. Same with a lot of things we talk about in the show. I think there's many things, and that's what makes it so tricky to try to figure out what all this is. Moving on to the next one here. That says, I work overnights at a residential home that takes care of people with disabilities. We have a mix of older and younger residents. Sadly, some older residents have passed away in the house. I've always been a believer of the paranormal and spiritual world, but I never had actual experiences until I started working here. Here is a little background of the house before I get into some of the experiences. The house is a very old Victorian style home that was built in the late 1800s. One of the earliest town mayors lived and died in the house. Then the house became a funeral home for a very long time, and they used to prepare the bodies down in the basement. So here you have a former funeral home, now a medical facility. That seems like a place that would just have all kinds of activity. Back to the post here. Let me tell you, that basement gives me the chills whenever I have to go down there. I do not like it one bit. One time I went down there to get Christmas gifts, and the door slammed shut on its own. At first, I thought it was my coworker messing with me, but she was in the living room the whole time, decorating the tree. I've had some other creepy experiences working overnights. I also have another staff on with me, so I'm not alone with these experiences. When it's in the middle of the night and I'm cleaning the kitchen, I swear on my life I see something peek its head around the dining room entrance at the corner of my eye. I have seen a shadow fly up the front stairs while I'm in the office doing paperwork. I hear footsteps and knocking when it's really quiet. I do my bed checks to see if anyone is up, but everyone is asleep. My coworkers have also seen figures and shadows. One of my residents keeps talking about someone in the bathroom at night. She hears what sounds like the sink turning on and off and banging. There will only be one resident over the holidays, and I plan on doing an investigation in the basement. I hope I will be able to get something. And that's where that one ends. And sounds like an active location. And it doesn't surprise me that it is active, given again the fact that it was a, um, a funeral home and is now a medical facility. So, and just all kinds of activity there. Not just visuals, but audio as well. So let's see here. We'll do another handful here. This one says, I live in a 2-unit apartment. So I'm in one, and there is an apartment uh, above me. I started living there a few months ago and helped out upstairs, sometimes doing childcare and little tasks here and there. There was one room in the house where the overhead light would often turn on by itself, seemingly for no reason. It's remote activated, the remote that controls the light, and the fan is on a little stand bolted to the wall. Nobody else was in the house when it happened. I asked the owner, and she said that light turns on by itself all the time, and it freaks her out. It's only ever that one room. None of the other house lights do that. Now she's been gone for a bit, and nobody is living upstairs. Sometimes I go up to tidy or cook, and I notice that the light is on. I am positive nobody is up there, so I know it's turning on by itself, and without someone pushing the button. It also happens randomly. There's no pattern or regularity. It didn't happen for months, and then happened 3 days in a row. My best guess is that since it's controlled by a button, there's something else in the area that happens to be messing with the connections or something and turning it on. I know literally nothing about electricity, so I don't know how those lights work. If you have any ideas, I'd like, very much appreciate it, purely for curiosity's sake. And that's where that one ends. Um, Whenever it comes to electronics, there's always a possibility of things being manipulated accidentally by other signals from other devices. But then I don't think we can ever completely rule out um, paranormal influences because we hear about that as well sometimes. And I think it's one of those cases where there's many possibilities as to what can be causing these things. So, but I'm not sure with that one. What is doing that? It is odd that it's only that light and it's only that one room. It is also odd that there's no pattern. It's not like someone using another device and causing that to happen in a pattern where it's a device that they use in their own space. I'm wondering how close there are other buildings are to this place. That might also be an issue or a factor. If there's no other buildings, then who knows? So, not sure, but it's possible it could be paranormal. It's weird though that it's just that one light doing that one thing. So, uh, one moment here while I get some water, please. I'll be right back in 1 second. Okay, so moving on to the next one here. Let's see. Oh, doing the wrong thing here. I'm have to make sure I'm coming through, and it looks like I am. Okay, good. All right, so we have, I'll go through 5 more here. This one says, my bedroom is upstairs, and my bed is placed next to my window. Outside of my window, it's a big field for a backyard. For a few nights, I've heard what I can only describe as a body being dragged, or something heavy like a body being dragged, and someone having a bit of a hard time with it. I don't hear voices or anything else, just the motions of something heavy being dragged. Every time I looked, nothing was there. No people, no trash, no objects, no animals. I tried looking at possible answers, and a web search said the wind, tree branches, or animals. It's not any of that. Any other ideas? And that's where that one ends. I'm wondering if it's a residual energy recording, energy field that is acting as a tape, in a way, a playback of a previous event that happened there. Or it is some consciousness, some being, some entity that is there moving along the ground, and somehow the writer is picking up on the sound but not able to see what it is that's moving. I mean, that's all I can make from that, but it is fascinating. It's happening, but it's also there's no signs of any logical explanations for what it could be. So I found that one out. It really, of course, the the darker sort of part of my brain goes, well, it's a residual energy of maybe something terrible that happened there, and it is the sound of someone dragging a body across the ground from who knows when, who knows how far back. But again, there's so little to go on there that we can't really. It's not a definite thing that that's what it is. Um, Even though I can understand why. Again, if it sounded like that to the writer there, then I'm sure that's the sort of image that they may have got in their mind as well. But yeah, that's fascinating. That it's just the sound and nothing else, and no other activity. Uh, Moving on to the next one here. This is the longer one. This one says, about 10 years ago, my husband and I heard noises in our house, like hearing our names called in the other room, only for there to be nobody there. And we felt the bed move like someone sat down on the edge. I did a cleansing ritual twice, and the experiences stopped. We believe the experiences were linked with an antique piece of furniture we brought into the house. About 5 years ago, we were all down in the basement, and my dad, who is also a Reiki practitioner, said he felt a weird energy and did a cleansing to move out some trapped energies from under the stairs. We also had a radon issue since resolved, but we haven't felt strange down there since. More has happened within the last week. I worked from home alone all day and was in the bathroom when I heard what sounded like someone playing a video on social media on their phone right outside my door. The sound was in Swedish. We live in Sweden, but my entire family speaks English at home, and the kids don't use any social media. I opened the door, fully expecting one of the kids to be home from school, but nobody was there. I mentioned it to my family, and they all concluded that someone had connected to our smart speaker while walking by and accidentally played their video for 5 to 10 seconds. I denied this and even went outside to check and see if anyone was walking by or working on a neighbor's roof, but nobody was around. 2 days ago, my husband was working from home and I was out on a walk with the dog. Nobody but my husband was home. He said he heard a cough upstairs, but checked and nobody was there. We have checked all closets, halls, and hiding spaces for anyone who might be living in our house without us knowing, and there was nobody else in our house that we could detect. Any ideas? We haven't brought any new secondhand furniture or items into our house other than some white coffee mugs that I purchased in advance for a party. And that's where that one ends. So I'm guessing they must have gotten rid of the first antique item that they bought, or maybe the cleansing. And I'm only laughing because so often you hear about antiques having energies and or consciousness attached to them. Um, so it wouldn't surprise me in a way if they got one item that did have something, and then the father and or the writer there, when they did their cleansings, they dealt with whatever was going on. But then, what if this another item? Well, I guess they didn't. They said they had no more new items except for coffee mugs. Um, but anyway, and I know it mentioned in there was a radon issue, but they said they also resolved it, and there was still activity. So I don't. I'm guessing they did. They had everything checked out and made sure it wasn't still an issue in the rest of the home. Um, and but then there's still activity. So it just sounds like maybe an active location that where energy and I guess spirits or souls or whatever can gather easily, or maybe it's because I mean if they keep on if they're let's say bringing in antiques, and some people do like to collect them and then sell them and just sort of that's a hobby of theirs. So it's possible that all this is connected to that first item that they mentioned in the beginning, and possibly these cups, even though it's an odd item for it to have so much activity around that, but I mean, there's no hard and fast rules as to what can or cannot have attachments, as far as I know. So can't rule that out. Um, but yeah, just sounds like an active location for whatever the reasons are. That even when they sort of clear it out, apparently they may have to just keep on doing that because it sounds like it's active, or it can get that way. The cough, I wonder if that's just a residual and or some kind of a time anomaly or carryover from another dimension where it was a person um, that was there, and somehow that sound just came through. So that's hard to say. But so moving on to the next one here. I see everyone there in chat. Hello, everyone. See, just I'll do a quick run through here. Derek, the Night Stalker, Stocker, just for anyone listening that's not familiar. Matt's Owl, Temple of the Owl podcast, Sweets, Dawn. I saw. Let's see here. Where did I see? I thought I saw. Okay, there we go. I was missing a message there. Molly as well in the chat. Thank you all for being here. So I have 3 more true stories here that we'll get to, and then that'll probably be it for tonight because I don't want to burn through all of what I have in reserve. So this next one says, I have several ghost stories, but none that made me stop at my tracks and reevaluate. I just got home from work. I work at an Italian restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia. The restaurant has been there since the 1990s, and there was a previous restaurant there before that, an old bar before that, and an old house before that. I've seen things out of the corner of my eye before. I've been downstairs working on payroll at 1 a.m. while the other manager was upstairs in the dining room when something went bang in the next room. It was a side office, and the only entrance was through the room where I was sitting. It was so loud that I was convinced either something fell or someone was in there. When I went in, there was a cardboard poster on the ground, and the lights on the ceiling were swaying. The bang was either the wall or a shelf, but it sounded like someone threw a bowling ball against the wall. Huh. Okay, it must be from parents from behind me. I was hearing voices, and I was like, am I hearing that through my headphones? No. Anyway, this happened about 4 months ago. Now for tonight. I was alone in the building, doing payroll from 1 a.m. until about 2 a.m. And when I finished, I went upstairs to work on my liquor order. I went through the dining room to the liquor room, opened the door, and was about to start when I decided to hit the restroom. I went to the restroom and noticed that a light in the hallway was on. It was out when I came up, but I didn't think much of it, as maybe I wasn't remembering correctly. After the restroom, I went back to retrieve my clipboard and made my way to the hallway where there are wine bins. It was dark, so I went down the hall, through a door to the light panel, and flipped every light on. I do this anytime I do anything so that I can see quickly and clearly. Plus, without the light, it is pitch black. So I was taking a sort of inventory and checking things off when I got an uneasy feeling out of nowhere. Granted, I get this feeling most nights that I'm there alone. But just as I started to brush it off, the lights in the hallway began to turn off, one by one, except for one. I looked through the door, thinking someone was there, maybe messing with me. I walked over and looked, and nobody was there. So I locked the bin and walked back to the liquor room, feeling anxious, but I continued to count when, bang, I heard the sound of something on the opposite side of the restaurant, in the kitchen, fall, clattering. Okay, time to go, I said. I walked to the dining room and stood, listening for something, anything. After about 30 seconds, I said to myself, heck with this, and made my way to the front, unlocked the door, came out, locked the door, and I saw someone in dark clothing walking along the sidewalk in front of the restaurant near the street. The sidewalk is about 40 feet ahead, running parallel to the building. I was parked right out front, 2 steps from the door, and as I went to get in it, I heard him say something like, "Excuse me," and when I looked over, all I could see was a man wearing a hoodie, looking at me, then over to the side of the building, then back to me. And all I said was no, and got in my car and left. Nobody was in the building with me, and I was visibly rattled. I don't know what to make of any of this. And that's where that one ends. It makes me wonder if the person in the street was walking by and saw something, and they were going to ask the person that made that post there about it. And the person that made that post was already having experiences and basically, like they said, heck with this, and just got out of there. Um, I'm curious if activity happens when the restaurant is busy, but then again, if it's busy enough, then I think maybe some things could be, especially if it's just sounds, could be written off. And I bring this up because I've heard of accounts of people who have said that they used to have a full house of people, kids, whatever, siblings, whatever, just family, or roommates or whatever, and they would hear things and just write it off as being the other people in the house. But then eventually, at one point, um, several people moved out of the house, and they would still be hearing sounds and realize, oh, maybe that wasn't always the people that I thought it was. So I wonder if the same thing could happen with a restaurant like that, where there's sounds that happen during the day, during operation, the hours of operation, that could be paranormal that just are not even noticed. But that's a lot to have happen. That's not just sounds, that's objects being affected. But you have a lot of energy. I have family that do a restaurant, and they're always busy, and they're always, I don't know, I'm sure they use a lot of energy doing that. And yeah, Derek in the chat there says, I wonder the same about supermarkets. Yeah, definitely, I could see that. So, yep, any place where you have times of times in a day where the place is full, and who knows, there could be something weird happen that people don't even realize. But then that same place, if when it's there's barely anyone there, I can imagine if they hear things, they have to wonder what's going on. So, and I've had a couple of posts I've shared on shows about grocery stores and people having weird experiences in them. So that is not uncommon either for that to happen. But we have two more stories here, and I'll get to those in just a second. Okay. So let's get these last two here for the night. And I'm a little behind on my research this week, so otherwise I would go through more, but I don't have as many as I like to have. So this next one says, this was when I was really young, so I'm sorry about the lack of details. So when I was young, like 5 to 8 years old, I would have the occasional sleepover with my sister in their room. It was kind of strangely shaped, with an entrance that was basically a small 90-degree L shape. In the small part of the L, directly across from the bed, there was always a shadow. The shadow looked kind of like a human, and as time went on, it grew larger and changed. I believe the entire shadow grew, but mostly the hand got larger. They have that in quotation marks. On multiple occasions, we tried to find the source of the shadow, but nothing we ever did would change it. Frankly, I'm not sure what it was. It very well could have been something normal, but since we could never get it to change ourselves, I'm not sure. If anyone has any ideas on what caused this, I'm happy to hear. And that's where that one ends. It sounds to me like something was maybe projecting to these kids, or they were picking up on something. And I don't know. I say that because if it was a actual physical shadow, I feel like they would have been able to figure out what it was and track the reason or the source for it and why it was changing over time. That really is odd, to me, about that experience. It reminds me in a way of my first experience that I can remember with my cousin, where we saw, as I said before, just the head of an elderly woman above this clothesline with the sheet hanging from the clothesline, but we didn't see any feet on the floor in my cousin's basement, in the family's basement. But what was odd, sorry about the noises as I'm shifting here in the chair. What was odd about it to me, even then, was that I could see details of this woman's face, even though I'm extremely nearsighted and she was clear across the other side of the basement. So the only thing I can figure out now is there was some kind of mind to mind communication or projection that was allowing me to pick up on, or to see, in a sense, this woman clearly. So, looking at the chat here, going back to that previous story about the restaurant, um, uh, Derek says, yeah, definitely the town over from me has a local ghost that haunts it, apparently. Wow, yeah. Almost like it's making us. Oh, this is about the next one, I think. The one I just went over. Almost like it's almost it's just about, here we go. Almost like it's making us see a picture that it wants, but it doesn't get all the details right sometimes. Yes, regarding the shadow, the story I just shared. Like if it's if its realm doesn't have shadows because there's no light, it wouldn't know uh, how to make a it wouldn't know how to make a shadow, or it wouldn't know to make a shadow. Right? Yeah, it's possible there. Just in the way that it wasn't a moving shadow in the way you would think, or there wasn't their shadows, but then slightly distorted or whatever. At least not that they could tell. So yeah, um, all possibilities there. So we have one more left here. I'll go through tonight, and now this one I did a show a while ago about gas stations, paranormal experiences in and around gas stations. So and this one is could have been part of that show if I had found it at the time. Of course, it may not have been out yet or posted yet. This one says, I work at a gas station overnight, and I've only been working here for about a month, but I swear it's haunted. Some of my coworkers have told me it's haunted, and last night when I was working, I heard strange noises coming from the building next door. The graveyard shift, there we go, only has one person on shift from about 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., sometimes 6 a.m., and there is a sandwich shop next door that is run by the gas station as well, but it closes at 9 p.m. until 10 a.m. There is a metal see-through door that is in between the gas station and the sandwich shop that can be opened, and I could walk in there. As when I was being trained, I was encouraged to walk in there if I ever thought there was any someone in there. But I probably won't ever. Uh, I won't ever do that, especially after last night. There are a few chairs and tables next to the sandwich shop doors, and I was sitting there looking at my phone, taking a few minutes off when I started to hear things from next door. I sort of ignored it because there were weird noises coming from there all the time, but there was slightly more noises than usual. There are always noises like machines and registers resetting and floors creaking, but I heard what sounded like a loud sigh, slam, or growl, but I ignored it. I wasn't paying it too much attention. Suddenly, I heard what sounded like another growl and noticed it actually sounded like it came from a monster or something, or like it was from a really deep human voice. I got very scared and quickly walked away back to the front register and waited for a customer to walk in because I was so scared. It was about 1:50 a.m. when it happened. I continued to do my daily tasks, and after about 2 hours, I got over the noise. I was very tired that shift as I was up most of the day before going into work, so maybe all of my senses weren't there. Anyway, let me know what you all think. I I told my coworker when they got there, and they kind of just said that there are some creepy things that happen here and there, and that the place is actually haunted. And that's where that one ends. And it got me thinking, so often in movies and TV shows, whenever anyone says, I heard a growl, the first thing that people go to is, oh, it's a negative, inhuman entity. It's a demon, in other words. But I wonder how often is it, again, if there are other levels, dimensions, whatever you want to call them, other layers of reality, how often do people accidentally startle other beings whether they're more animal-like or creature-like or human-like or a mixture of the two, that then causes these kind of sounds, these kind of growls, and it's not meant as an "I'm going to get you" kind of a thing. It's a "Oh, you scared me. Stay away. I don't know who you are, or what you are," kind of a thing. Especially when nothing else happens after that. There's no attack. There's no, again, like in this one, like in so many others, nothing else happens. It's not like what you see sometimes in fiction and movies, in paranormal horror movies, or in some reality shows. Um, I wonder, if it's more again, how often do we accidentally frighten other beings just as much as they frighten people? And how often is what happens a result of that? And it's understandably sort of mistaken as a possible sign of aggression when it's not meant that way at all, or at least it's not a direct threat for any reason. So, um, so let's see here. I'm looking. Yeah, no, we should probably stop here soon. So looking at the chat here, Derek says so many overnight workers talking about their place of work being haunted. It makes me think that it's probably not that every store is haunted. It's more likely that when people are awake at night, they notice how the night moves. Yeah, yep. Uh, could be a whole invisible biosphere that wakes up, but we don't notice it because we're asleep usually, and maybe it wakes up then because we aren't around to notice it. Yeah, yep. It's always possible. So, but that's where we're gonna leave it for tonight. Went for about almost an hour and a half, so that's not bad. Um, I should be back to the usual recording schedule this coming week. I did. Hopefully, I sounded okay to everyone. Again, like I said, I had some teeth removed, so I'm getting used to my mouth feeling and being different than it used to be. So, um, but thank you all for listening. Again, like I said, I should be back to my usual recording schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, starting this week after the show comes out, at least for a couple weeks, leading up to the holidays there, and but and then of course there'll be some times where I have to take off some nights here and there for that, for family gatherings. But thank you all for listening. And once I get the command set up here, we can do this. And I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.